Hello, everyone. Um, Thank you for joining us. I'm Lisa Rachel Snyder. I'm an astrologer, and I'm here with Grace Bibi of Sacred Authenticity, who is one of the most talented, tapped in astrologers I know. She's one of my teachers. And I just wanted to host this. We did this back in March. And I wanted to do this again because we're closing out the year 2020, which astrologically has been one of the craziest years. And we're ending this year with some eclipses that are happening right now, and then a solstice, which is actually Jupiter and Saturn are entering Aquarius, and then we have the solstice, and then we're entering 2021, which is another crazy year in a different way. So I just wanted to have another conversation with Grace, and so that we could be prepared and have a sense of what to expect this year and get the most out of it. So that's it for now. Take it from here, Grace. I think I'd love to hear a little bit about, I would love to start with the eclipses.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to
So before, even though we said we were going to talk about 2021, it is very important to start with December of this year because 2020 is culminating in December with the end of with the second eclipse season and with the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. So a lot of the things that are going to start in December are going to be carried out throughout 2021 and will be kind of setting the theme or the tone for the entire 2021. And so the first element is the lunar eclipse happening tomorrow in the sign of Gemini. It's a full moon lunar eclipse. And what is very important is that within this axis that started from May of this year, the nodes of the moon changed into the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius in May of 2020 and are going to exit these signs in December of 2021. What is very important is that we have 6 eclipses in total, and only 2 of them are in the sign of Gemini. 4 of them in the sign of Sagittarius and only 2 of them in Gemini. So this is the only lunar eclipse we're going to experience. In Gemini, we'll have one solar in the summer. And so this means that this is the only really event that is going to be culminating throughout this eclipse axis. And what is very important is to note what is the Sagittarius Gemini axis. So we've been dealing with, and we will deal throughout the entire next year, this is one of the themes of next year as well, is this south node in the sign of Sagittarius, which means we are letting go, south node is letting go of collective beliefs, of beliefs about politics, about different countries, about economics, about different politicians and what's actually happening. And also we are letting go of our beliefs or our trust in religion or organized religion. We are letting go of our trust in educational systems. We're letting go of some of our freedoms when it comes to traveling. That's kind of the Sagittarius part. But on the other side with North Node in Gemini, and this is being illuminated right now with the lunar eclipse in Gemini, it is about doing our own research. Gemini is about gathering the facts. The small little...
To clarify, the North Node is what we're moving into, and the South Node is what we're letting go of. So the North Node being in Gemini, so we're letting go of all of these Sagittarian qualities that Grace just shared, but then what we're moving into is Gemini. So
yes. And
just for like layman.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes I speak a little bit too complicated. So the North Node in Gemini and the full moon in lunar eclipse in Gemini is about doing our own research and following the data and gathering our own facts and speaking with people. Gemini is about communication, sharing information with others, researching information. Also, it is about like communities, versus Sagittarius is the law, or the government. Sometimes, I mean, both Capricorn and Sagittarius can be connected to the government, but Sagittarius is more about the laws, versus Capricorn is a little bit more about the structures and the power behind it. And so here, instead of following, even like, I mean, this will sound a little bit weird, but it's like not necessarily following the law, but doing our own research, or instead of following necessarily what's being said, on the media or something like that, we are following our own information, and we are communicating between each other what makes sense, and doing our own research.
Yeah, I love that. And that actually goes with what I've been feeling, has is so much of what this moment in time is about, which is we're bombarded with so much information, and it's hard to know what's true. And all we can really go off of is what feels true to us in our everyday life, in our worlds, because what's happening, I live in Bali. What's happening here is very different than what's happening where you are and in America. And so we have to just trust and stay true to what feels right for us in this time, rather than listening to these media sources that aren't necessarily
Yeah.
giving us the full truth.
And they are also not necessarily operating out of integrity.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also what is very important is that always when there is a full moon in the sign of Gemini, regardless of whether that's an eclipse, full moon is about illumination. Something is being illuminated, revealed. And so Gemini is information, Gemini is data. So what is being revealed is information and data. And what's always important is to look at the dispositor of the full moon, or the eclipse, and this is Mercury in Scorpio. And so what we will also experience on this eclipse is revelation of information that has a Scorpio undertone. So it is some sort of deception, or some sort of fraudulent activities are going to be revealed. Something that was happening behind the scenes is going to be revealed in this lunation. And what is very important is for the both eclipses, they are in the sign of Sagittarius and Gemini, and I will show you other charts later on, but both of those signs are incredibly important for America, because America is a Sagittarius rising, and you have it's 12 degree, the ascendant descendant axis, so it's very close. And the seventh house is about, in astrology, seventh house is about enemies, open enemies. And you have Uranus at 9 degrees of Gemini in the American chart. So this is going to hit the American chart, both of the eclipses, very strongly. As well, both Trump, Pence, and Biden and Harris have significant Gemini and Sagittarius placement. So they will be hit personally very strongly. And the second eclipse, I think I can show you already the second eclipse. We can go back to this one if you want, but the second eclipse is happening on the 14th of December. And 14th of December is when the Electoral College is making the decision, is electing the president. And we are having an eclipse on this day. And what's very interesting about this eclipse, it is a total eclipse. The other one is weaker. The first one is weaker, but this one is very close. It's total, and it's passing exactly to Washington. The actual eclipse path.
Wow.
Is going to be seen.
Wow.
Going to be seen through Washington.
Wow.
So what I can, and all of the four people, all the four candidates, and also America itself have strong Sagittarius and Gemini placements. These are the main placements, and this is the Trump moon is at 21 degrees, I think, or 20 degrees of Sagittarius, and so on and so forth. What I can promise you is that what we know now is not going to be the outcome of the whole situation. This is simply the astrology speaking, because when we have eclipses hitting so strongly, all of these charts simultaneously. Eclipses symbolize sudden events, plot twists. What is for sure is that the outcome will be something different than one we know until now, pre-eclipse season.
Okay.
But even the outcome after the electoral college will be different than the outcome after inauguration, because I'll show you the chart as well for an inauguration. So the saga is very, very complicated, but it's also very interesting. Now I understand why people watch sports and that kind of stuff. It's so entertaining. But this is the second eclipse, and the second eclipse is very strong and is connected to Mercury, as you can see.
Yeah.
So the first one was some sort of information was being illuminated, something connected to, again, data, also Gemini rules commerce or the stock market to a degree. It's very mercurial. Gemini rules as well siblings. And I know this is kind of a minor fact, but I know a lot of people are dealing actually with family stuff with their siblings. So sometimes information will be illuminated about siblings as well. And then the second eclipse can play out in two different ways. It will be exactly kind of the opposite experience for everybody. For some people, it will be a renewal of hope, Sagittarius. Renewal of hope, renewal of belief, renewal of faith. And for some people, is the opposite spectrum of Sagittarius, is pessimism, is the opposite, like creating paranoia, creating like a fear-based scenario. And because it's also the south node, so it's for some of them can be letting go of belief. And I mean, this is kind of very predictable if you look at even,
Right. I mean, it's so polarized.
yeah, but even in our personal lives as well, like if we whatever is being illuminated on the first eclipse tomorrow, whatever information is being illuminated is going to inform the new belief systems, new moon eclipse, the new belief systems that are going to be formed. And what is very interesting is also this eclipse is trining Mars, and is trining Aries, but I'll speak about Aries a little bit later. So again, for some people, it's going to be this really strong kind of motivation and reconnection to their motivation because of this trine with Mars. There will be almost the sense of victory, you know. It's very interesting because Trump has his lot of victory at 16 degree of Aries, where Mars station. Again, whatever happens, it wouldn't be the outcome of the whole thing. But there will be, for some people, this feeling of victory, of redemption even. And for some people, it will be the opposite. Because of again, what I was writing about Sagittarius in both cases is illusion. Both like utopia and dystopia are illusions. So even the best case scenario or the worst case scenario is still somewhat illusionary. So I do advise people to stay grounded in reality with this eclipse.
Okay.
And the last element about this eclipse, it is going to be very tied into the previous eclipse, because we had already one eclipse in Sagittarius in the summer. And that was in the beginning of June. We had eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. So whatever started or whatever was illuminated throughout this time, it was very interesting because this eclipse was exactly squared Mars in Pisces, and this was the whole George Floyd story. Whatever was brought to light, now it's going to be, there will be a new beginning in regards to that in some way.
Potentially a resolution.
Yes, potentially resolution. but also not only about the George Floyd story, but in
Right.
general, whatever
Yeah, of course.
in our personal lives as well.
Cool. Yeah, that
Um,
one hit me hard personally.
yes, me too. Should I move on?
Yeah, let's move on. I think that feels clear. There's a lot to cover today, so.
I was thinking, should I show you the American chart right now, or should I leave it for later? This is December.
Yeah, we were talking about America, so let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go to that.
this is it. Yeah. So this is the way how the American chart will be aspect. So you can see it is, so this entire axis is going to be, um, the entire axis is going to be, oops, sorry.
Mm.
I just want to, somebody wanted to join, so. Okay, so this entire axis is going to be triggered. Sorry. This entire axis is going to be triggered throughout these eclipses.
Wow.
And you see this Uranus. That's why America has so many enemies, because in astrology, seventh house is your partners as well, but it is also open enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
for example, 9/11 happened when Saturn was exactly here. So this part of the chart is triggered always when there's some foreign
Wow.
attacks. And I mean, I'm not saying
Right
that,
on that.
I'm not saying this is just an eclipse, so it's not
Yeah.
Saturn. You know, Saturn is a bigger player,
Yeah.
but also one can say that already um, throughout this year there has been threats to the national security. You could say with the virus itself. I mean, I know there are speculations, but also because of international politics, I don't believe that we will really know the truth about this situation, because if there's the truth is being publicized, there will be need for a response, like an international response, and I don't think like you know, this will be allowed to actually happen, because then it becomes even it becomes too complicated. Um, but yeah, this entire eclipse season over this year, next year is triggering um, this part of the chart in the United States. And also you're heading towards your Pluto return, as you perhaps know. And Saturn is currently on your Pluto, and then Saturn is going to move and cross your south node and, you know, square Uranus throughout this, throughout next year.
Wow.
What is good, however, is that Saturn and Pluto are releasing their grip from the opposition of the entire Cancer story. So that is good, because there was, I feel the problems that America is going to start facing are going to be more international versus, yeah, there will be some sort of more international focus versus domestic, although there is the polarization internally. So it's going to be um, it's going to be interesting. I think we can speak about America a little bit later, because
Yeah. I
I
don't.
want to make it.
Not. Yeah. Not everyone here is from America,
Yeah,
so I think we don't need to focus too much on the American chart. But
I just
um,
want to show you.
yeah, it's crazy. It's
And
definitely.
also Neptune is opposing your Neptune and Black Moon Lilith, so that's why there is this
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
uprooting and there's this rage and so on and so forth.
Mhm. Yep.
So the next element that we need to focus for December still is the Great Conjunction
Yes.
between Saturn and Jupiter
Solstice.
on the 21st of September, exactly when there will be the solstice. Um, and exactly during this moment, Mars is conjunct Aries, exactly squaring Pluto for the last time.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
However, um, regardless of what this conjunction will bring, and regardless of what Saturn in Aquarius will bring, um, it will feel like a breath of fresh air. You know, Jupiter, the planet of joy and abundance, was in its fall position for an entire year. And so we were feeling depressed and down throughout this year collectively. Of course, not everybody, but there was this kind of depressive mood.
Right.
Um, and heaviness, exactly. So there will be definitely more lightness with the Aquarius energy, even though, you know, Jupiter is going to be co-present with Saturn um, for a long time, you know. Still, Jupiter is gaining dignity. So it will feel subjectively as it is getting better.
Like fresh, yeah.
Breath of fresh air in Aquarius as well.
Yeah.
So about the great conjunction. So what is important is that every 20 years, Jupiter and Saturn are meeting together. And this is kind of creating the energy of the next 20 years. And what is important to say is that every 200 years, they change the elements in which they are meeting. So until now, the last 200 years, with one exception, was in the earth signs, and now it's going to be in the air signs. So we're transitioning from the industrial age of 200 years to the information age of 200 years.
Wow. Okay.
So the focus of the next 200 years is going to be information. We are going to be selling knowledge and our information versus commodities. Of course, we will be selling commodities still, but the focus will be intellectual property. And within the cycle of 200 years, there is a mini cycle of 20 years, which will be colored by the sign of Aquarius. The positive side of air signs is always when they're conjunction in air signs, there is incredible intellectual development, golden ages, and that kind of stuff. Incredible technological progress, and so on and so forth. The shadow side, always with air signs, and especially with Aquarius, is disease. Because the air signs are the humane signs. You know, all of the pictures are humans. In also Virgo is human, but when there is conjunction in the air signs, especially Aquarius, because Aquarius, the humanitarian, is the ultimate human sign. There are diseases historically, if you look at it. You know, when there's something in Taurus, maybe the bulls or the animals suffer. Last time was in Taurus, so we had a lot of focus on animal rights and all of those kind of stuff. But also a lot of fires and stuff like that
Right.
about animals, etc. When it's in Aquarius, it's about humans and human health. So, you know, these are the sides of Aquarius. But this is very much what people talk about the beginning of the age of Aquarius, because straight afterwards, Pluto will enter Aquarius as well. In 2023, then we'll dip back, and then 24 will enter for sure. So what is important with Saturn in Aquarius? We saw Saturn in Aquarius from March until July of this year.
Yeah.
And on the positive side, again, the highest expression of Saturn in Aquarius is technological advancement. It is also
yeah, we definitely saw that starting to happen during that time.
Yeah, also intellectual genius and the ability to have a disciplinary approach. It is also very much about human rights and equality. And inclusivity and all of those kind of stuff. It's very humanitarian. It's about stimulus packages and all of those kind of stuff. The shadow side of Aquarius that I really want to bring into the picture, because I feel like a little bit in the spiritual community, the age of Aquarius is a little bit overinflated. Um, both Age of Pisces and Age of Aquarius have positives and negatives. Okay, it's
All yeah.
equal amount as
Yeah.
every sign. So Age of Pisces, we're exiting. The shadow sides was deception and religious deception and um, the whole religious propaganda and everything happening behind the scenes with governments, you know, the age of deception kind of.
Mhm.
But it's still a Jupiter sign. Jupiter is about we're all one, universal love.
Right.
Even religion is preaching love and treat your neighbor kindly.
Right.
Aquarius, the highest expression is utopia. Everybody's equal. Everybody gets equal opportunities, and we live in
Right.
this dream world where there's
Sure.
no violence and whatever.
Yeah.
Shadow side of that is still a Saturn ruled sign. And so it is not we're all one, it's we're all individuals.
Mm.
You know, because in Aquarius, the two lines are not crossing. In Pisces, they are crossing. So
Mm.
in Aquarius is we're all individuals, we're all indivisible, we are all separate,
Mhm.
unique selves. It's still Saturn. Saturn likes to, it's a fixed Saturn sign. It's actually the sign that Saturn likes to be the most, according to traditional astrology, because it's a masculine sign, and Saturn is a masculine planet. Um, so the shadow side is communism and is
Mhm.
totalitarianism. If you look historically, it's not Capricorn that brings um, totalitarianism. It is Aquarius. It is the elitist.
Capricorn is more like capitalism, right?
Capitalism, exactly. Aquarius is one. The one side is, you know, fascism. There is one race that is better than everybody. So it is
Mm.
elitism, right?
Right.
Because in Capricorn, you climb the mountain. The goat is climbing the mountain. In Aquarius, Prometheus is already on top of the mountain, and he's just very generous and pouring water to the poor. But he's up there. It's the elite scientist, aristocrat,
Mm.
you know. And even we have it in a spiritual community. We have it like, you don't know your moon sign, like what's wrong with you, or like you're still stuck in the matrix. Like
Yeah, yeah.
there
I'm
is
more involved than you are. Yeah, yeah.
there is very strong hierarchy.
Yes.
Um, for example, China, it's a communist country, is an Aquarius. Um, we're running out of time. We have 9 minutes left. Um,
Yeah, just for everyone watching, we're going to come off at after 40 minutes because I guess yeah, for the Zoom, and then we'll go back on the same exact link so you can rejoin, but we're gonna piece these two together.
because otherwise we have just 40 minutes for free as a group meeting. So China is the ultimate communist country, is an Aquarius rising, and so they're coming with a Saturn in their first house, Jupiter in the first house. Um, this is a whole other story, China, but Aquarius is very much totalitarian regime.
Right. Okay, so just to clarify, when did the age of Pisces begin?
With the birth of Christ,
Okay, so we've been in the age of Pisces for
2,000 years,
yeah.
because it's always
So how
2,000
long will
years.
the age of Aquarius last? Another 2,000 years or
Yeah,
so? Or
it's
yeah.
always 2,000 years. Yeah.
All right.
So, and
That's,
because we're
that's
already after the uh, 2000th year, so we are transitioning for the first 100 and 150 years, but we are technically already in it. And so we will see the both extremes. We will see independent communities, even return of hippie movements, which we are kind of almost it.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hi.
yeah. So, but also on the other side, there will be, I mean, we see it already with universal basic income that you basically have in the States and, and, um, and stuff like that, and censoring, and stuff like that as well. So they're both sides of the spectrum. But what is really important is that this is going to color the next 20 years, especially
Yeah.
because of Saturn and then because of Pluto entering.
And
Uh,
when you say disease,
mhm.
do you mean just it's disease is also related to the mind, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
air sign. So it's not necessarily just physical disease. It's also dis-ease.
Yes.
It's
So with Aquarius, it is very much about infectious disease, pandemics, but also mental health. The
mm,
aspect of mental health that all of the air signs have a mental health aspect. Aquarius is about a PTSD, a
okay.
lot of PTSD.
And what do you suggest that we do to counter that, knowing that that's going to be a theme for the next 20 years? What can we do?
So I think meditation will be the new going to the gym. Like I think it will become, especially throughout Saturn in Aquarius, will become the new normal. Like everybody will be doing meditation just as the same way how everybody's doing a little bit of exercise or something like that. So meditation, definitely, I'm very much an advocate of meditation, but also with Sun in Aquarius, there is the in Aquarius in general, it's about loneliness sometimes, mental health issues coming out of loneliness and separation and isolation.
Right. The
So
Aquarius is about community.
yes, finding
Yeah.
ways to still be part of communities and still be individual, indivisible, but belong as well, find a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Um,
So important. And
and
this
again, trauma healing. Aquarius is also very important. It's about to focus on trauma healing, any modality that it is about getting you back into the physical body, because Aquarius is about detachment and
mm,
um, this is how trauma is happening by basically there is part of your soul is being fragmented and being separated, um, and so it's about integration going back into your body, so a lot of embodiment
mhm.
uh, practices, and I think you are uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And also just keeping in mind, like we're in this age where there's a lot of separateness right now with COVID, and like making it a priority to maintain connection within community and understanding, acknowledging the importance of that.
yeah, and what I've observed in the West, because now I'm in the West. um, So we had previously this programming that if we don't belong in society, we are going to starve to death and die. This is kind of the being cast out of the tribe mentality that is really deeply programmed in our beliefs. And that's why people strive to belong or to be seen as beautiful or being seen as whatever in society, because of this deep programming coming
Yeah.
from ancient times. But now, what has happened this year, I've really observed it, this belief is being deprogrammed, because
Mm,
we've seen that you don't really need to even leave your house to be completely, surviving and thriving, and you can order your groceries, delivered. And so there is no longer this kind of survival need of belonging
mm.
as it was before.
But what about all of the mental health issues that have come about from feeling isolated from
Yeah.
community,
Yeah,
right?
that's why I'm saying that there is a danger, because there is no longer this survival need to connect. And
Mm,
that's why it kind of goes into the other direction.
I see.
Uh, because then it becomes so much more difficult to connect, because then there is anxiety, and
Yeah.
once you really separate, it's difficult to reconnect.
Whew. Okay, so stay in connection. Speaking of connection, I think we're gonna log off
Yeah.
for a minute and then
Yeah.
log back on the same link. So
Okay.
let's do that now. Okay, so we're back. And I think we just want to talk a little bit about this is basically the new year that we were just talking about with the solstice. But if there's anything you want to add to like January 1st, as we move forward now into 2021?
Yeah, so this is really the kind of the astrological new year, even though the astrological new year is really at the end of March with the equinox, because as you remember, this year started really to change on the equinox in March. You know, the things started to change in March, not really in January. So the arc will be closed in March. But in terms of like the transition, we are going to see the transition at the end of December. What I forgot to say about this conjunction, I think it's going to be very much connected to the vaccine, because there are multiple vaccines. Again, this is a very complicated, controversial topic. We are more alternative people, so you can guess our opinion about it. However, this is going to be a turning point when it comes to the pandemic, and I actually wanted to speak a little bit about it because I think that's an
Yeah,
important
actually, I'd love
topic.
to hear your thoughts on the pandemic.
Yeah. Should I do it here? Yeah, I think this is a good point, because this is going to be really the turning point. So normally when we have a virus, the viruses never disappear. They stay forever. We just learn to deal with them. So historically, no virus has disappeared. We've just were able to contain them. Um, so the virus will be present in our attention for sure until the end of next year, but maybe there will be some echo from it throughout the entire Saturn in Aquarius, because really Saturn in Aquarius brought it. Um, and you know, Saturn in Aquarius is literally social distancing. Saturn, Aquarius, social distancing.
Yeah, because just to clarify, Aquarius is like community, Saturn is restriction.
Yeah,
Just
Saturn is
keep it super simple. Yeah.
exactly. And so there will be still some sort of restrictions till the end of Saturn in Aquarius, which is March of 2023.
Wow.
And also Aquarius is ruling the airline industry. So this industry is going to suffer, also because there is going to be, it will take a lot of time until business travel recovers. And business travel is what keeps the airline industry going, because you know, really the people who pay the flights are business class people and first class people. It's not the people who buy the cheapest last minute tickets. However, about the vaccine, so I'm going to leave the safety element aside. I have been through vaccine injury. I'm not going to take it. I don't advocate vaccines, but I hope many people will take it, because we have to get out of this situation somehow. So, and some people don't have problems with them. So it's kind of like, I'm very biased because I've experienced the negative impacts that are permanent.
Well, we do know that having the vaccine will probably dispel a lot of fear in the collective, because people who are pro-vaccine will feel like more safe having had that.
So if we leave the safety element aside, I've been really, I've been informing myself about these particular vaccines. My mom works in big pharma, so I'm very familiar with what are the clinical studies that they're going through, and they're more or less the same. So I want to talk about efficacy. So normally vaccines are, and this is no conspiracy, this is really what the indications of these vaccines are. So normally vaccines create antibodies to be able to prevent you from getting the disease at all. So you have already the antibodies, so you don't get the disease at all. This particular vaccine, because coronaviruses have been existing for over 20 years, you know, the normal, when you get sickness throughout winter, it's either influenza or coronaviruses. It's nothing new. It's just this number 19 is new, but it's nothing new. And people have been trying to create vaccines for over 20 years, not successfully. Now suddenly, because there's a lot of money involved, of course, there is many candidates. what is very important to know is that these particular vaccines, their indication is not to prevent you from getting the disease. The indication is from you still get the disease, but you get milder symptoms, which sounds like, okay, whatever. Or you get no symptoms, but you still get the disease, which means that you're still infectious. And so what my concern is that, yeah, many people will take it and they will get probably less symptoms. Sorry, my screen disappeared. I need to reshare it. So many people will get the vaccine and they will stop getting symptoms, or they will stop getting even any symptoms at all, but they will be still infectious. So social distancing and masks will be still justifiable. And so at the end, my concern is that at the end of the day, nobody will get sick apart from maybe this very, this risk generation that cannot be vaccinated, or that, this, because the vaccine is 95% working, so maybe this 5% or whatever, they're going to get sick, and everybody else will have virtually no symptoms, but social distancing and mask will still be justifiable because theoretically they're getting, like, they're asymptomatic but still having the disease. And that's the whole spiel with this particular.
Okay, I think we should move on from this topic because we don't know what's going to happen with that. But it's interesting to hear.
I mean, I am speaking about it because I've informed myself about the vaccine, but also about the astrology, because there is this astrology of like about hope and then a little bit back, and then about hope and a little bit back. So this
like
is why
2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the very beginning of the year, and this is important regardless of, this is the inauguration chart. Okay. Regardless of if this is inauguration, it's going to be monumental for the entire world. And have you ever seen such a chart in your entire life? This is Washington. This is the exact time. This is not like a random chart. This is the exact chart when this is happening. Look at this. How could you make this up? Mars and Uranus conjuncting on the ascendant. They're both in their fall, squaring Jupiter and Saturn. I mean, it's just like, you cannot make this up. On the ascendant, and then if you look at the moon, because moon is always the trigger, the moon is 29 degrees, and so 2 hours later she will jump in. So obviously, 12 o'clock is going to be the beginning of the ceremony, but 2 hours later the moon is going to
still be happening, the ceremony. Yeah,
and it's going to be the trigger. This is going to be very, very, I mean, some people I've heard speculation for even assassination and stuff like that. And if you look at, American history, it's called, I forgot the name of the curse, but there is a curse where every 20 years the president every time there is a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction every 20 years, the president is being either assassinated or there is an attempt. And you can go through history. This is not coming from astrology, this curse. This is actually acknowledged. Or you can read on Wikipedia about it and look about every single president.
Something unexpected and potentially violent is going
incredibly violent
with Uranus and Mars right there on the ascendant.
Because Jupiter is squaring that and is applying square very tight. Mars is applying, so Jupiter is making it's like exploding. It could be masses exploding, because this is in Aquarius, but this is incredibly volatile energy, as volatile as you can make it.
Yeah,
you cannot make it more volatile. And what's very interesting is you're having Neptune exactly conjunct Ceres and exactly squaring the nodes. And this is one of the signatures of next year. It's already in effect.
Yeah.
But it's going to perfect few days after the inauguration. So it is perfected, really. So first of all, Neptune's conjuncting series about grief, collective grief.
Mm.
This is the energy. And Neptune in Pisces squaring the nodes, it's something very interesting because I was experiencing that last year, and this year you too, because Neptune was squaring our nodes.
Yeah.
So we kind of already know this energy.
Yep.
In this
I was feeling Neptune go direct today, hardcore, by the way.
Me too. Me too. The whole night, because it was night for me. Um, so Neptune in Pisces squaring the nodes in Sag and Gemini is all about, it's this feeling of underwater, being underwater and not knowing where is front, where is back, where is up, where is down. It's complete disorientation. Complete disorientation, not knowing what is happening, who is saying the truth, who is lying, completely losing track with reality, Virgo.
Right.
I'm not pointing to Vesta, I'm pointing to the Virgo sign.
Right.
Complete loss of what is real, what is actually happening. This orientation is the best word for it. And this is coloring already December and January, February, even November, because when the nodes are in the middle of the sign, they spend a very long time in the sign. So they are already in these degrees. So in this particular moment, it is really about being present in the moment. It is about surrendering, trusting, connecting to your own intuition, very strongly connecting to your own intuition and to your own sense of direction, but also not having a sense of direction, just waiting for things to either fall in their place, or just having like trust and surrendering.
Yeah. My experience, I've had some pretty intense Neptune transits over the last couple of years, and my experience with Neptune and Pisces is just surrender. Like, you don't know what's happening. You just trust that whatever is happening is leading you towards your greatest and highest good. And that's what it ended up being for me as I went through that. But it's just like, feel it all, surrender, trust, let go. The blinders are on. You're not going to be able to see through it for a little while. And all you can really do is trust and go inward.
Yeah,
Go
it's
inward.
incredible.
Inner knowing. Yeah.
On a collective level, it's incredible amount of deception. I mean, there is in the media in the States, because I follow very close, there's so much gaslighting, so much, it's incredible. But it is going to be even more so in the 2 months to come.
But what we can do as individuals to empower ourselves through that when that's happening is to just go inward and go into our inner knowing, our inner trust. And even when we can't see where it's taking us, even when we have no control over where it's taking us, just to go in.
Yeah, and also what I suggest people in the States especially is but not only there, but especially because the political situation, is to forget the narratives that are being, let go of the belief systems that have been programmed, and really listen to the people, the different people, what they are actually saying, beyond all of the filters that have been programmed deliberately, and really trying to look at the energy of the person, or actually doing your research, what this person is actually doing, or what they actually have done, and what the media is saying, and so on and so forth. Like, a lot of doing your own research and taking off the filters that are being created, because there is a lot of filters right now that are being.
So coming back to the Sagittarius Gemini axis, where we're letting go of the Sagittarius belief systems and coming into the Gemini of like doing our own research and finding what's true for us.
Yeah. This is the waiting. So this is, I mean, I've never seen such an inauguration chart. It's just like gnarly.
Let's see. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, by the way, like the way I see astrology, just for everyone watching, is like this is showing us not necessarily what's going to happen in the real world, but it's showing us the internal process that we're going to be going through. So it doesn't necessarily have to manifest externally as like violence and these types of things. It might, if that's what needs to happen, but it could be more of an internal experience that we go through.
Yeah.
That's my.
But, you know, especially when it's a collective prediction, a lot of the things are manifesting. If you look at an individual's chart and you're looking at their transits, it's another story. But, you know, not everybody in the collective is as conscious as they should be to, you know, to
Yeah.
internalize that experience. So there is a high potential for.
I don't want to like put it out there like something really violent and like it is going to happen, because it might not, you know. So these energies are all going to be working through us that time regardless, but it's not necessarily going to manifest as like an assassination or something. We'll see.
So this is the American chart. We can talk maybe later about it again. So these are the other eclipses.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, do you want to just talk a little bit about like what are the major themes
yeah.
of 2021?
So in terms of the, let me just pull out my notes because I wrote the things. So the first thing is the Neptune squaring the nodes, as we were talking about, this collective surrender and accepting we don't have direction, we don't have the true north. The other element is Jupiter in Aquarius and Pisces. So let's look at this chart. This is already Pisces. So I mean, we spoke about Jupiter in we actually didn't speak. We spoke about Saturn. So Jupiter is going to be in Aquarius. Let me just see the dates. Until May 13.
Okay.
Jupiter will enter Pisces. And then in July, on the 28th of July, Jupiter will retrogress back in Aquarius. And then on December 28th, Jupiter will enter again Pisces. So from May to end of July, we're having Jupiter in Pisces. Okay. You can see it in this chart. So what's very important is that Jupiter in Pisces has very high dignity. Yes. You know, it's in home sign, and in its home sign, and it's not co-present with Saturn. So between 13th of May until the end of July, we will really have a breather. We'll really feel, okay, this is it, we're over it. Because it's also summer. So we had somewhat of a breather this year as well. I know. The Northern Hemisphere. Yeah. But it's going to be so funny, this Jupiter in Pisces, because Neptune is co-present. So the way how I see it is we are going to push through all of these restrictions. We will make it. It will feel better after December, but then May hits, and this is going to be so much partying, like for 3 months, that you cannot possibly imagine. It's going to be so much, just like the gates will be unleashed and everything will be like flooding. It is going to be very jovial, but you know, we kind of have deserved it. Yeah. But again, it's going to be until the end of July, and then things are going to start to revert backwards. But still, Jupiter is not going to be close to Saturn. Saturn will retrograde, so it's not going to be. Jupiter is going to be fine. I'm very happy about Jupiter. So the general theme of the year is actually there is going to be much more lightness, because also the Mercury retrogrades are going to be in the air signs. Okay. Last 2 years were in the water signs. Yeah. So for the last 24 months, we had 12 months of Mercury in water sign. Half of the time. This is ridiculous. That's why we were so exceptionally emotional, and we were just like sharing our emotions, and it was just like this constant shadow work like all the time.
Totally.
So in 2021, it's going to be all the air signs. So it's going to be about our, on one side, mental health, on the other side, our connections, our relationships, our ways of thinking, gathering new information, learning new skills, meeting new people, networking, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be way lighter. There will be just Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, so that will be the only Capricorn energy apart from the end of the year. Um, what is very interesting, so the first element is Jupiter, and maybe we'll come back to what Jupiter in Aquarius and Jupiter in Pisces is. The second element is the Mercury retrogrades in the air signs.
Right.
The third element are the eclipses in Gemini and Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm.
And did I miss something?
You mentioned Neptune. What about Uranus?
And
Saturn?
the Uranus Saturn squares. This is the main thing.
Yeah.
Um, and the last thing is that I didn't want to miss, and a lot of nobody, I don't hear anybody talking about it, but there will be a Venus retrograde at the end of next year already.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so interesting. It will be on 19th of December, it will start, but it's going to be in Capricorn. It will cover 11 from 26 degrees Capricorn. So
Wow.
the whole Capricorn saga
Yeah, where we just were with all the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Capricorn.
is going to, but the thing is, like, it's going to be revisited at the end of next year. But Venus, I love Venus retrogrades because Venus retrograde is Venus being for 4 months in the same sign. So after the whole Capricorn saga, we broke down everything, we destroyed everything.
Yeah.
Now there will be a lot of liberation throughout this year, and at the end of the year we will have the chance to rebuild there.
Mm.
Venus will be there, the benefic will be there for, and Venus has a good dignity in Capricorn, not like Jupiter, because Jupiter was there this year, but Jupiter doesn't like being in Capricorn. He
Right.
expands death and depth and disease there, but Venus is doing very well in Capricorn. So at the end of the year, she will rebuild this area.
Mm.
This is very important. I mean, I'm biased. I love Venus retrogrades, but think about it that way. Venus for 4 months in the same sign. This is how you should
Right.
think about it.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, everything is going to be very swift and fast moving next year because everything is in air signs. And the big deal that I kind of am procrastinating speaking about is I will show you the chart, the Saturn Uranus squares. So 3 of them. Um, so Uranus is going to be the main player of this year in Saturn and this Aquarius Uranus energy. And this energy is very unpredictable, but also in a good way. It's not necessarily bad. It's just unpredictable, and it operates on quantum leaps.
Mm.
So it is going to be a lot of breaking through and
Mm.
breaking through limitations, breaking through obstacles,
Yeah.
liberation, freedom. This is the first square. So we're having a Jupiter, first we're having Jupiter Uranus square, which is happening just before the inauguration. So just shortly before that, which is more Jupiter Uranus squares. On the positive side is really technological breakthrough. It's
Mm.
really genius energy, especially in this science. Is
Mm-hmm.
this capacity to really grasp very complicated knowledge. I have this in my chart, Jupiter and square Uranus. So it can be very, very exciting. Obviously, in this particular case, will be with Mars, so there might be the volatility, but there might be also mobilization, great mobilization,
Mm-hmm.
and gaining your power
Yeah.
as well. Because Mars has been squaring Saturn for the second half of the year, in a
Right.
sign-based square.
Yeah.
So Mars was still limited. And then
Right.
Mars is going to pass the square to Saturn in the very beginning of the year, and it's going to be very much unleashed. So there
Right.
might be this kind of unleashing quality that may go too far at times, but there is this unleashing
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah. Actually,
Saturn,
I
Uranus.
want to
Yeah,
talk a little bit about Mars after this as well.
yeah, Saturn, Uranus. So the thing about Saturn Uranus is even though Saturn was not in Aquarius, I have Saturn in Aquarius. So I've been experiencing this aspect already for the last 2 years, really.
Mhm.
Um, so it has been, and this aspect is very much about breaking through about mental concepts, about breaking through intellectually or spiritually.
Mhm.
But also there is this other element of this aspect is sometimes we get a breakthrough not when we have our wish granted, but when we detach, Aquarius, Uranus, we let go, we detach from that wish.
Right.
Because think about Uranus in Taurus is about liberation from old values, it's changing our values.
Right.
And so the way I've been observing it, I've been observing it with others, with other people, with Saturn in Aquarius, with myself. Um, some of our wishes might not be granted, but we might really have the sense of, okay, I was probably being self-conscious about how I look, or let's say how tall I am, or how my body looks. And then now everybody's on Zoom and nobody sees me, so nobody cares. That kind of thing. You might not get your perfect body necessarily, but you will stop caring because it will be irrelevant.
Mm.
Or maybe somebody's super self-conscious because they're small or they're not tall or they're too tall, and then it's irrelevant.
Right.
I mean, this is just like a simple example, but maybe somebody wanted to travel the world and this is their dream that was unattainable, and now they're like, oh, it's not relevant anymore because it's not possible so much. So there will be this aspect of um, something that we wanted very much, either might be irrelevant, or it might be, we might realize that actually we've been wanting it because of conditioning and not because we actually
Gotcha.
genuinely wanted.
And what does this mean for the economy? Because Uranus is in Taurus, which is all about wealth, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is already starting and
Yeah.
has been started already. So it's very interesting because even though we are in crisis technically, we haven't experienced real economical clash, really, because we had a small clash in the stock market. Like the Dow was 28 in the beginning of the year, and there was like a dip to 18, but now it's back to 30. So because of the stimulus packages, they were able to kind of keep the economy going, but this is a bubble.
Right.
This is inflated bubble.
Right.
And so at some point, this bubble is going to burst. And so this is going to be the Uranus Saturn
Saturn.
square, because really the stock market is also Aquarius because it's a large system. Um, but also, this is something that has started already this year, but we're experiencing this massive distribution of wealth. That is like suddenly somebody who was making lots of money, suddenly their business is completely irrelevant, and vice versa, somebody who was completely irrelevant, now it's gaining incredible power, like Zoom, for
Right.
example.
Right.
So there will be
All
this.
these new entrepreneurs, right? Like all these people working online, starting their own businesses
Yes,
is more of a thing than
exactly.
it ever was.
And there will be like massive shifts in also what people value and what people spend their money on. And again, with the Saturn Jupiter conjunction um, in Aquarius, people will value information. People will value um, knowledge, and so they will spend their money on self-development. And I think I was writing about it recently. you know, because they cannot travel, they cannot spend their money on travel and entertainment and recreation. They will spend their money on everything Aquarius. I mean, you see how much Aquarius there is in the chart, and there will be this is going to be the Mercury retrograde in, as you can see, in Aquarius. So people are going to spend their money on people like us, or on astrology, or self-empowerment, or anything that is about developing your consciousness, Aquarius as well.
Cool. Yeah.
Books and that kind of stuff.
So
We are having like 9 minutes left.
yeah. So let's finish up the Saturn Uranus. So it's gonna the first square is February 17th, and then you said there's two more, right? So
Yeah, so very interesting is the three of them, Mars is involved.
interesting.
So again, part of this Mars story is going to be this breakthrough, and I do believe, just based on the chart of America, that there will be civil unrest, for sure. I mean, this is like, I'm not making this up. It's everybody's saying that. So, of course, some of it will be internalized, but a lot of it is because you're going through the Pluto return. So there, some of the history is going to be repeated.
Right.
So this is the first one, and is with Mars in Taurus.
Right.
This is the one that I'm mostly kind of on the lookout for, because Lilith is there, and Mars is in Taurus, and Mars is in its exile in Taurus, so he doesn't like to be there. It's very explosive. And it's also direct. Yeah, it's direct. They're all direct. So the second one is going to be in June, and so what is very interesting about June is it will perfect. But you see, Mars is entering Leo, so it's going to be creating a story there as well with Mars. But I am not so afraid about this one, because Jupiter is in Pisces during this time. It's not together with Saturn, so it's not squaring Uranus, so it's not going to be something so big, because Jupiter is inflaming things, it's making them bigger. And Mars is in fire sign. Mars likes to be in fire sign. So this one, if we see something, I'd rather see, there might be something of a natural disaster kind of thing, versus some sort of like civil unrest, more of the nature, you know, maybe some flood or some earthquake or something like that, like nothing really dramatic, maybe something small, like for this one. Yeah, I'm not so worried about this one, because here people will be happy and will be having fun, and so they will be not so worried.
And then the third one.
The last one is in December. The last one is very interesting because Mars is going to be on the south node, so it's not configured, but it's kind of on the south node on Christmas Eve. Where is it? Yeah. This is Venus is going to be just freshly retrograde. So the way how I see the last one, always it's really the true breakthrough. So it is, again, I see also the last one as more positive, because you know Venus is going to have a lot of time here to restore and to rebalance. So it's going to be way more of the positive side of the breakthrough versus kind of the volatile breakthrough. And perhaps with this Mars in
stepping
Sag,
forward and integrating now.
Yeah, with the Mars in Sag, Mars is not going to be, even though Mars in the south node it's malefic, I feel like just Mars is going to be more exhausted, or even like letting go of
his
anger.
Yeah.
Grip. So I think it's going to be more positive. The first one, however, is going to be more volatile. And if there will be changes in the market, I see it more directly with the first one, because there is so much.
February is when we'll look out for that.
There is so much energy in Aquarius. with the Mercury retrograde in
Yeah.
Aquarius. So that will be.
So it looks like we have about 5 more minutes. I think we covered most of next year, right? Is there anything major that you feel like you missed?
Yeah, I'm checking my notes. So the only thing that I wanted to mention is there is a Gemini thread um, throughout this year and last year and next year that I just want to point out, because in this particular area of our chart is going to be the most positive one. And so that's why I want to end on a positive note. So if you remember, we were having Venus retrograde in the sign of Gemini, which I do believe it was quite okay. It was very good. I think it worked very well for everybody. We're having the eclipse.
That was like May, June of 2020, Venus retrograde in Gemini.
Yes. And we are having the eclipses with the north nodes, which means north node is giving. We're not letting go of anything, we are getting things in the sign of Gemini. Then we're having a Mercury retrograde throughout this year in June, in May and June in the sign of Gemini.
Okay.
And then, which again, I don't necessarily see Mercury retrograde something bad, is Mercury spending 2 months in the same sign. So it is going to be doing some work there. And the last thing is in 2022, in October, the next Mars retrograde is going to be in Gemini.
Okay.
So there will be this, if you look at the Gemini area of your chart, this is an area that is going to be receiving a lot of restructuring, but in a very positive way.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the themes of Gemini for the people.
Yeah, it's about it's about the way how I've seen it play out is a lot of new communities being formed, a lot of new friendships or deepening of connections with friendships, a lot of new skills or tools and even websites being built. You know, some people build websites throughout Venus retrograde in Gemini, and then all the eclipses are bringing stuff to this. A lot of new services are being provided, new information is being gathered, new tools are being learned for, connected to technology or connected to sharing information, new ways of sharing information, maybe writing books. This can be also for somebody the process of writing of a book.
Okay, we listened to that. Great. Yeah, that feels really thorough. So I just want to end by saying Grace offers readings. She's amazing. I've personally had readings with her, as do I. I work much more intuitively. Grace is like studies everything, as you can see. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can contact either of us. My Instagram is at Lisa Rachel Snyder. Yours is
at sacred.authenticity.
Yeah.
And my website is sacred-authenticity.com.
Cool. Yeah. And we'll put all the links in when we share this video. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope it was informative.